Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Human Design Podcast. We're the Human Design Geeks. We come here every week, putting our hearts and minds together in the service of the collective awakening. We join in our passion for the human design system with the intention to educate, bring awareness, and trigger a meaningful change in anyone sincerely looking for it. So, thank you for joining us, and let's dive right into it. Well, hi guys. Today I am coming in with a lot of curiosity and desire to learn about variables. Tell me everything. What does it mean to have a left mind, a right mind, and tell me everything about variables. I'm not gonna extend it to a lot of questions. Woody, I'm gonna invite you to introduce it first, and then let the magic happen.
Wow, what a big subject. If you
I'm excited.
if you only ask about the variables, that is like, that is so much information. I think we can talk for days, maybe weeks, maybe months. It's amazing. But maybe we can first learn people what variables actually means, because
Yes, please.
when you see your design, when you have your design open, maybe it's good. We have our site, humandesigngeeks.com. You can make your own human design up there. Then it's actually a very small thing in your design, which people don't look at because you're so busy with colors and numbers. But it
Mm.
is, and Julian is now uh, putting beautiful purple lines around it. It
Playing a
is,
bit. Oh,
did when we talk about variables, we talk about the four arrows. So we have in every design, you have four arrows. They're not going to be five. They're not going to be one. They're going to be six. They're always going to be four arrows. And you have two arrows on the left side and two arrows on the right side, which already means a lot because the left side are red and the right side are black. And that's because it is what we firstly discussed about. You have your personality on your right side, it is your mind, and you have your body on the left side, which is the red. So it is already also, all the arrows are connected already with these things. So the left arrows are with the body and the right arrows are with the mind. And that's already a big difference what the arrows means. So when you ask what is variables, what does it mean? I mean, these are the variables. And to be honest, when I got into the variables, which was very late in my human design journey, I thought, why aren't people learning this almost immediately? Because it felt so as a, like
important, right?
next to strategy and authority, it
Yeah.
is something like, wait, but now I understand myself at so many levels, so much better. So
Yeah.
to be honest, I went pretty deep into the variables, and I discussed a lot with other human design people who were like for years, maybe like more than me, like years long. And even these people were that into the variables because it is very difficult, but it's also sometimes it feels like that it's like, yeah, I know the variables. It's that, and it's about digestion and environment and la la la. And it feels a little bit like you're that. But when I went into it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so useful. So maybe we can, I don't know, Juju, what you want to say like around the big thing about variables, but maybe it's good. I don't know if we come to every arrow because it is very a lot. So, but we can see where we start and how it will go. But maybe Julian, you want to already say something around the question is about the variables.
I have a question. Juju, do
Uh,
you have like a clear definition of what a variable is? Just like a statement. What is it about?
So the variables are the personal health system of human design. It's linking the human design with your body mechanic in a health way. Um, for me, what I really like about the variables, there are three of them. This one, and this one. And
So
basically,
two upper arrows and one lower arrow. Okay.
yeah. And what I love when I do these designs, like when I look at somebody's design, is like, is it right or left? The right is like absorbing everything. It's like, whew, like Willie here, like 4 right. He's absorbing everything.
So we're talking about
And
the mind now, the mind arrow.
No, we're now talking about the
everything, about
Oh, really?
everything, about
Body too.
uh,
Okay.
your body, your environment, And what I like to share is like, okay, how is your brain? This is your brain. Is it like absorbing everything, or is it more like narrow-minded, like focused on something? And for that gives you indication of how best to eat, to take in information, to eat ingredients. How is your system equipped to really process and get the nutrients and get the whatever it is that you need to develop your unique awareness. And your unique awareness is your cognition, which is your superpower. It's like smell or vision or, you know, and so that for me is such an interesting information to share. And I find that people who have done some work on themselves, they're really aware of this. And or if they're not, then it gives them a piece of information that can really help them to confirm something they're feeling, but they're maybe fighting against. I'll give you an example. There was during COVID, this woman I know had a partial, like how do you call when somebody's frozen part of
Para-
the face is the
Paralysis.
yeah, paralysis of the right side of her face. And then I was like, well, in human design, it's like everything should be like warm that you eat. And when you do, even in the summer when it's hot and you want to do ice cream, it's not good for you. And she thought about it. She's like, yeah, but I sometimes I like to eat something or drink something cold, like. And for her, her determination was hot. So then she focused on really, eating and drinking things that are hotter than, more warm than her body temperature. And then eventually that thing left. That she was, yeah. So it's little things like this that can help really you have a more enjoyable life. So that's one thing. That's determination. And then the second thing, so
Sorry, if I can just
yeah,
confirm, what I'm hearing is that this is basically a manual to nourishing your body and mind in the way that it can fulfill its highest potential.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, feed yourself correctly, then your superpower, comes out even stronger. And
Mhm,
then where to put yourself in what environment, and this is this second arrow on the left.
mhm,
And that your ideal environment is a place like if you're in the correct environment for you, things happen, you heal faster, you get nurtured when you don't feel good faster, opportunities come faster. And Ra gives an example, like he's shores, and he lived in Ibiza, close to the shore, when he got the system of human design downloaded for 8 days. When he moved to New Mexico with no shores, no water, within a short time, his son nearly died. He nearly went bankrupt because of medical bills and everything. And then when he went back to Ibiza, then everything settled. So
mm,
it's kind of like you're going to be healthier in the right environment. And
mm.
that's, for me, that's insane information to know. Like you can tell like somebody like he's mountain or he's shores, or there's all these different options. So that's what I like to share.
Yeah, it's I agree with that. It's a powerful knowledge when I understood that my environments are caves and I need to have my own little cave, and also that they can also vary, right? They can be blending, they can be exclusive. Like mine is exclusive cave. I feel so good. I spent so much time in my little room where I feel so good and I feel very protective over because exclusive caves. So only when I feel like when it's good for me, I let people in. But otherwise, I like to be in my own cave by myself. And I feel so good and I get inspired and all that. So that's fascinating. But what about that upper? I feel like we can go in each arrow, each episode on each arrow and dive deep into it because there's
You
all these
can, yeah.
different ones, right? But the one I'm specifically fascinated about, and maybe this is the direction you guys would like to uh, educate me on today, is the minds. So the left and the right mind, right? I know we have here between the three of us, we have one left mind and two right minds. And I just watched a video on the right, like a small short talk of Rahu, who talks about right minds. And I felt, oh my God, I didn't do that. Did it itself.
I hate the right mind. Boo.
I
Whoa.
love the
Thank you.
right mind.
Thank you. Thank you. I will be leaving. I will be leaving.
The right mind. Hey, I'm living with you. Um, but it was so important for me to hear because the strategy of, or if what I understood or what I heard, this is where I'm going to invite you to elaborate on it now. What I understood, the strategy for this left mind and the right mind is also different. So now let's dive into, I want to understand first of all, how does the left mind works? And then how does the right mind works? Julia, would you like Jujulicious, would you like to speak on the left mind from the experience?
So yeah, I have a good I have the left mind, the strategic mind, but all my other variables are right. So I'm somebody who's absorbing everything, but then the mind is always trying to make sense of it. It's like always focusing on something. So left mind, like really like always strategizing about everything.
Sorry, I just
Yes.
wanted to say that this is the right black upper arrow on the hat. This is for the people who can't see us, who listen to us on Spotify. So this is the
Yes.
upper right arrow looking to the left. This is the left mind. All right.
So very strategic, always thinking. It's like the monkey mind, like like whatever happens is like, so if I'm not doing well, and I'm also emotional, as you know, so because I have my solar plexus activated. So when I'm high on the wave, suddenly my mind is like strategizing about positive thing. Oh, let's do this, we can do that, like like positive. But if I'm down on my wave and then I'm strategizing, oh, what happened? What is going on? Like, so it's really influenced by the state that I am in. So I can dig my own hole or I can strategize about saving the world. That's the sort of
So I'm
my
hearing you
explanation
have
of
a
the left.
structure to your mind, some sort of structure to your mind, a specific structure. Like it always wants to structure, like not wants to, but like it will always structures things. Is it so?
Like the mind? What do you mean? Like the mind or this particular
The
example?
mind.
Yeah. Well, the mind can do so many things, but I think the interesting part, because I think we go very fast in all the variables, to be honest. It's like I think for a lot of people, it's like we go like, and it's good. I love to go in it, and people like, oh, where are we going? But yeah, so I think what's interesting is that the difference between the red arrows and the black arrows is what I learned from it, is that the black arrows are binary, because that is the mind. And binary, what I mean with binary is that you always have one side and the other side of it. So when you go deeper into it, like the body is the body, it works as the body, but the mind is always left, right, it's always binary. So you can be in one state and the other state. We will go into it later. But that's like a big difference with the mind, because we see everything in binary, and that's how we, understand hot and cold and stuff like that. Everything is binary. So that maybe is already a good distinction between the red, and what maybe is good to talk about. I mean, I think to add on is that all the arrows together have a function together to work properly to go to the last arrow, which is the upper black arrow. It's called motivation in human design. The black under it, perspective. It's the way you look at the view. It's the passenger. It's the way you look through your lens. Then you have the environment and you have the digestion. And it is the work if you eat well. So if you digest on the way you need to digest, you live in your correct environment, you will use your perspective in the right way. You can view your world in the right way, which creates the best motivation on the left, which makes you the best way possible of thinking. So everything is connected with each other. So when there's one flaw kind of way, so when you're not living in your environment or when you're not eating actually properly as you had to eat, all the motivation, all the perspective is conditioned, is not working in the perfect way of how your human design is meant to be. So that is already maybe an interesting
That
thing.
was so helpful. Thank you, Willie.
Yeah,
Put it
very
all
well, very good.
together.
And that's interesting because what interesting is the digestion is very important from birth on till later, but the environment starts to be important when Saturn is making one round Earth, so around 29 years. From that moment on, environment starts to be very important. So in your first 30 years, environment is still good to live in your environment, but from Saturn has made one turn around the sun when you live, so 29 years, from there on, the environment is starting to be really important for your body. So that is also already an interesting thing.
Mm.
So maybe that was a good add-on about the red arrows on the left side. And then you
Very good,
come
yeah.
and then you come actually to the perspective, and the perspective is like the lower arrow. And perspective is just, and I think that is what you also like, Marta, about this, is it is about the passenger. And so we are here to be the passenger. The mind needs to be the passenger and not to be actively involving, your thinking mind, the way you look through the world, to look through your lens. And if you look through your lens and you think, oh, I'm gonna think this and I'm gonna do this from the mind, you're not on the right place. You're not being the passenger and just looking out the window and you're like, oh wow, so this is how I see life. So this is my lens, how I see everything in life. And just see unfolding your life in front of you. That's actually the best way. But what we're doing is, and then we come in the binary stuff. You start to do something, you start to see through your lens, which is not the way you need to see through your lens. And we can go deeper in later, but and if you do that correctly, you're coming into your motivation, and the motivation is, I think we're all both the Buddha motivation, right, Marta? We have a
Yes.
no agenda motivation, right?
Wait, what is
Non-motivative. It's the sixth line. I think we're both sixth line in the motivation, and
it's the observer?
it is it's called a little bit like the Buddha. It is just we don't need to have an agenda. We don't need to be motivated. We don't actually have a motivation. Which feels like I thought you also had it. Maybe I'm wrong with it.
Yeah, you both have the innocence, color
Innocence, it's
6.
called. It's color 6, yeah. So
Oh.
I have everything here too because it's a lot of material. But it's called his nickname is called Buddha and innocence. So we now are talking motivation. So we're on the right top arrow. Like if you have a sixth line on that, so we're talking lines again, in human design. You see how important the lines are. We talked about it in an earlier episode. So 1 to 6 is also very important with these arrows because you can be a 1-line arrow, 2-line arrow, etc. And all the lines have a different way of perspective or motivation. So when you're in your motivation, and we are both 6 lines, we're here at the Buddha, we are here to have actually no motivation, which sounds like, what? What do you mean no, not motivated? What stupid is that? The binary thing of non-motivation is the third line. You have a 6 or you have the third, and the third line is desire. So when you're not in your true self, we are desiring things. We want stuff. We want to be motivated. We want to be desired. You know this. I know this. And then we are going like, oh, look at me. I'm doing that. And I have desire for that. And look at me going. And actually that's the conditioning. It's stupid, but
That's
that's
the
the conditioning.
straight way to frustration.
That's the way to prevent frustration because we actually need to be just being no agenda, responding on life, as generators and, go into that. But then we get the desire and we want this and we want this and we want this. And that's actually not our place, but it will happen because it's binary. So we know both sides. But when we're in the fully desire all the time, we're not, that's not healthy. And then
Hmm.
you come back to what Julian is saying about the woman with the, with the face or something. It starts, of course, with the food, then it goes to the environment, and then it goes to your perspective. And if in that way there's something already a little bit off, well, we are totally full in our desire. And to be honest, I am actually, even knowing human design for 7 years and doing my best, I am not eating the way I need to eat because I hate my digestion way. You know, I'm the alternate. I need to eat every food at once. I need to eat my carrot, and then I need to eat my potato, and then not salt on it. Only the ingredients. And I hate it. I hate it. I just want to eat everything at once. I like a big bread with tuna melt stuff. And that's actually not the way I need to eat. But I love it. But it's actually not the correct way. So
So interesting. I also have an alternate appetite and I'm supposed to eat the same way. And I actually do eat a lot of the time, just
great,
one by one. I'll munch on a carrot or an apple, or
great, yeah.
even
You,
when I roast my veggies, like on the plate, everything is separate. This is my veggies. This is my broccolis. This is my potatoes. It's all separate. Now it's so funny. I think it's the innate body's wisdom when you
did you already
trust.
did it when you were young?
Huh?
Did you already did it when you were young?
I cannot remember that. I cannot say, but this is what I'm doing now.
Well, the
Like
funny thing
I
is
separate things.
what I do when I was I always made the food one food. So what I did, I had my potatoes, I had my spinach, whatever, my meat, whatever I was eating, and I always, as a child, put everything together because I just wanted to have like one thing. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, so I was like doing that with every food,
Oh,
and
I
then
did that too. Yes, I remember now. Yeah.
yes, and I still want to do it because I love it. But the thing is, I needed actually they had to actually give me like a plate with only potatoes and then a plate with
One
only,
kind of food. Yes.
right? But I want to have one kind of food. So there was this kind of thing which I did, I knew I wanted to have. But yeah, so but we're now talking about the red arrow and the in the top about the digestion. And it's
Yeah.
I mean, and but you would really want to talk about the black arrows, right? About the
The
perspective of
mind. You know why I want to talk about the mind, how the left and right mind? Because going into entrepreneurship right now and exploring it for the first time, I find it a little bit challenging having the right mind and not having like a structured, strategic thinking
uh-huh.
about things. I find it difficult. And so I'm thinking, like, what do you guys think if you have any experience for the right mind, for the receptive mind going into business, let's say?
Oh, wow.
What would be the recommendation, the suggestion, the guidance?
Well, good question though. I think maybe it's good. I see your design now here. We see more design. There is a funny part you're saying because you have a kind of way a left perspective. So if we talk about the arrow, the black arrow on the under, not the upper side but under, that is the left perspective. So there is something in your mind specifically which is strategic, and I think, but maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think the not the downfall, but the hard part about the strategic mind is when you listen to a person, right? For example, now I'm talking to you and I spread all this information to you and it's coming into your mind. There is always one thing which sticks to you because you're like, I get this, or you get, like, and all the other things I've told you, they just disappeared. So you're so focused on that one particular thing And that's interesting what Ra is always saying when he was teaching people. He knew which people had the left or the right and stuff like that. And he said, well, at the other one, I'm talking to the left people, and I have this whole story, which is beautiful material, and they just remember one part because I said something about a dog, and they were so, strategic on the dog. What happened with the dog? And they're so like on the dog because that's the strategic mind. And then I talk to the right people, and they hear everything in my story, every detail, but they don't remember it the next day. They're just it's just gone, right? So so I love that. That's and I think that is a good analogy about how the left and right mind works. So you have a way of your perspective, how you view it, how you get into it. It is strategic with you. So I don't know what you got out of this, what I just said, but there's one thing which particularly probably the dog, which sticks on you. It's also when you read a book, right? And I mean, my girlfriend also has the left arrow. And when she reads a book and she comes back and she said, that was a good part. And she can, like word for word, she can like paragraph that particular part in the book. And I'm like, I, even in conversations with each other, last week you said this and this and this and this. And I'm like, did I
I
say that?
did.
Did I say that? Like, and not like around the words, but like specific. You
Yeah.
said not that. And that's the left mind. That's the strategic perspective mind and also motivation, but like the perspective mind. And the right mind is like, I know it's somewhere in my noodle. Ra always said the noodle. It is somewhere there. I have all the books. I have I've read everything, but I need to read it over and over and over and over and over because I don't, but it is somewhere there. And that's how it
One
works.
explanation that I read about the right mind in the very beginning didn't really make sense because I didn't understand it at that time. But
Hmm.
now I feel like it's a good explanation because it's a what's the word? um, oh, I forgot the word. I'm missing the word. But anyway, it said this piece of information was talking about the mind and in my mind, and it said that my mind is like a vast quantum well of knowledge.
Hmm.
So it's like it's deep and spacious. And so it's empty as it is until you throw a bucket in and then you pull out the water, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So and I really start noticing that this is how it works. I'm empty. My mind is empty, or like there's some random thoughts flowing in. Somebody comes in, throws a bucket with a question or whatever, and then whoop, and you got a fish. And that's so weird to me. I mean, it's wonderful. But at the same time, I'm realizing, for instance, if I were to go into a coaching business, I don't have a particular structure to it. Not so much. It's hard for me to really structure it. What I do is
Mm.
that I come in, I open myself up to the person, and I receive. I let them throw the bucket into my well, and then just trust that something will come out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Does it resonate?
Yes, no, absolutely. I think you're immediately talking you're different. Like what I hear your right motivation and I hear your left
Also,
perspective. Well, because like when somebody comes to you and they need something from you so you can respond to it, you already have so much knowledge which you already have in your life. I mean, you as Marta had so many things you read and done and feel and blah blah blah. So and everybody has it, of course. So we're all a well of knowledge of so much things and maybe past lives. I don't know. You have so much things there. But if you non-motivated, innocence, being Buddha, not, open mind and Ashna also, it's always coming in. You need to respond. You're a manifesting generator. People come to you and you're like, I'm sitting, I have this problem, and blah, 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 and I do you know something? And you're like, you can respond. Your non-motivation is activated. Like, oh, I have this, this innocence coming out of you. So that is your left, right motivation. But when we talk about the left perspective, it is about learning knowledge. So it is about, somebody's talking to you, having this lecture or this book, and in that moment, you're strategic. So you have specifically that pointed out. It's also how our podcast works, actually, because then we have a Telegram app with all of the three of us, and you just you put in that video and you're like, oh my God, guys, listen to this. Ra is saying this and this and this and this and this, and I'm like, yeah, that's true, but Ra is also saying this and this and this and this and this and this and this. But you're so your perspective is like strategic, and you point something out. That's a quality. It's not something bad, right? It's a quality of how your mind's working. So that is, I think, the both sides, and that's already like a how do you say, like like already a difference in how
Yeah,
it works, which makes it already like, oh my God, how does my mind work, right?
definitely a little bit confusing, no?
Confusing, yeah, yeah.
Confusing, a little bit confusing. That's why I want to understand it.
And why
Jude,
what do
you
you
want to
think,
say
Juju?
something?
Yeah, no, and it's just it's funny how you can pick up everything like that, like you can observe and in that process, really appreciate yourself. And it's in that space that when you're not trying to be somebody other than yourself, that you can really, you like Marta, you're like the Buddha, where you have this ability to really focus. So then the question is, how do you put yourself in a position where you can thrive using this mechanic, right? And how would you do that? Because that was your question, like I'm an entrepreneur, like how do
Yeah,
I,
that was the question. Yeah, I
yeah.
already forgot the question.
I'm strategic mind. Do you see how I just
That's
And
true.
that's
Yeah,
why we love you and we need you.
no, but that is actually a good thing too, because you asked around the business, of course.
Mhm,
And well, yeah, so that is a good question. So how are you gonna use, so if you know how it works, and I mean, we can go dive deeper into, now we just talked about the surface level of these arrows,
mhm.
but when you go into it, I mean, we talked about innocence and desire. That is already going deeper into, like, for example, the perspective, the motivation. But um yeah, so that's also for everybody different. So the perspective, how you watch, how you see through your, to know how it works, and then you need to go deeper into human design. That can already, like, oh, that's interesting. Yes, that's the way how I see it, and that in that way how I can see the world. I can help on that specific, talent I got, and how I see how my perspective is working, and that's you can use for business, of course, right?
Yeah. And I agree with you 1,000% actually that I feel like that's the after learning the absolute basic,
Uh-huh.
this is the absolute most important next thing to learn. To understand how your mind works, how your body works, how can you best support it in order to uh, unleash its fullest potential. Because the potential is all there. It's within. Can you create a condition, an absolute best condition for this potential to come out? That's the practice, right? And again, coming back to the most important thing that we're learning here, strategy and authority, right? Always following your strategy and authority. And
Absolutely.
by doing that correctly according to your type of aura, to your design, I feel like these things will happen naturally.
It
Correct me.
is. That is actually what Ra is always saying. If you go strategy authority, you don't need to know anything actually about your human design. If you just know the strategy authority and really follow it as true as you can, authentic you can, everything will fall in its place. I also always find it so interesting that, you meet people and for example, they have an environment, it's a mountain, for example.
Mhm.
And then you're like, oh, where do you live? Yeah, I live in this high building in Amsterdam, like there. And I'm like, interesting. Like I find it so interesting that how can it be so, no, I love living high up. Yeah, yeah, of course you're a mountain, right? It's like, but it's always that case. It's like it's so funny how it somehow finds its way, like I have my best friend is living here in the suburbs. He has like a shore, but an artificial shore, so not the shore of the sea. So they need to, see the city, have a place. And he's now watching, and I love this place here in Amsterdam. It's like, yeah, of course, when you live there, you can look over and you can see like the city lying there, right? It's like, and it's so interesting how it always works out that way. It's like, because my girlfriend is a mountain. She was 2 years ago for the first time in the mountains in Austria, and she was like, I'm home. It's like, I understand this structure. I know how I feel here. I understand the roads. I understand how, I just feel how it works. And it's
Mhm.
like, I have a few, I understand it. Like in the city, it's still like, you know, and I'm in
Mhm.
the mountains. She's like, yeah, this is home.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's so important, huh?
Yeah, so very important. We're gonna talk about that a lot.
Great.
Well, does anyone have anything else to add, you guys? This was fruitful.
Great. Well, I was
Very good.
curious.
Well,
Yeah, I was curious. Maybe we can, like, for you personally, Marta,
Mhm.
to go into the perspective. I don't know, Julian, if you can see in the design what her perspective.
There's actually something that I read, and I was curious about that. I was reading about my variables, right?
Personal.
And
Oh yeah.
this meets me.
Yes.
And it said something about, I think it's personality. Is it a personality map?
Personal, right?
No,
Yeah.
wait, one second. So, something about observer or observed, being either observer
Yeah.
or observed.
Yes. That
So
is
which one is that? Design or personality or
that
design
is
note?
that is in your personality. Yeah. So
Personality notes, right?
yes. So it is about when you're right, you're observing, and when you're left, you're being observed, right? So
Yeah.
that is what we talk about, strategic and peripheral. Peripheral is like you have this, like everything is coming in, and when you are observed, you like it is actually like is it what's the word in English? Like you like it's not that you like to be observed, but it is a perspective of you being observed.
Does that
So
mean?
well. I'm an observer. So for me, it's not about me. How do I explain this? Because I don't know how it is to be observed. I always make jokes about it because I it feels always a little bit idle, we call in Dutch, like vain, like vanity. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm like being observed. People observe me.
Uh-huh.
And that's actually a little bit how it works, but like it is a way of you are being observed. So you feel observed, right? And in my perspective, I observe the world.
Mhm.
So I'm the observer. So it's not about me in the thing. I think that's also the transpersonal 6-3 profile. With
Mhm.
this, I always feel through the people to have an idea for myself, where a personal profile knows more about, it's about more about you
Mhm.
in the world. So that's how would I explain it. I don't know, Julian, if you maybe have a better explanation about the
Let me
observant.
ask, is it, am I understanding correctly that it's correct for me, due to my variable, to put myself out there to be observed?
It is. I don't think it has something to do with doing something. So it is about, if you are in the space, like if I look out through my eyes, I am I mean, everybody is the observer, but it is a way of shift of consciousness. So It is your consciousness needs to be observed. So you like being observed.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
there is a reason to all of these things, right? That's
Uh-huh.
what I'm trying to sort of touch on.
Hmm.
It's not just about you liking, but there's a purpose to that too. And that's the purpose that I'm trying to understand.
Well, the purpose actually is you're in yourself. So it is like you have your, how do I explain it? You are busy with yourself. It's not like it feels a little bit like a bad thing, but it's like you are in yourself doing your thing and you are observed. So people observing you. You're not busy with observing the world. That is maybe too black and white, but it is. So the thing is about you being in that thing, and you are actually I mean, you have a lot of individual lines. So Marta is pretty in, it is your individual thing going on, and so, and also being observed. So that is, and if you have the question about what is useful, well, you are creating you. And therefore being you and doing you and be observed, that is the quality of what it is. Do you understand what I mean about it?
Trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm actually, I think I found it here as I'm trying to, you see, me too. I read it before and I don't remember it. So I need to refresh it. But I do remember some point that sort of stuck out to me, and now I need to go back to refresh it.
Yeah.
And it actually says, and that was helpful for me to understand the purpose that everything in the design, in each of our designs in the body graph, is there for a purpose, and it makes a great whole of the person.
Yeah.
And so it's not there by chance, it's not there for nothing. It has a purpose, it has a good purpose to it. And what I'm reading here is about this is from the design notes. It's not from the personality, it's from the design notes, what I meant.
Okay.
um, and it says it means whether an individual is predisposed to being an observer or observed, right? And it from understanding this, one can determine which environment is the most conducive to their overall health, productivity, and enjoyment, right? So
Hmm.
to boost, to bring out what we were talking about earlier, to bring out the most potential out of these arrows, this mind, and this design, for somebody like me, would be correct to put myself out there.
So you can be observed, right?
Yes, so I can be observed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it makes sense for my design being the the 4-1 and the kind of like I'm not a 6, but I feel like by living my life, I'm kind of role modeling it for others. Uh, I'm not a 6, so I'm kind of a 6.
Oh, you have a lot of six lines also. I mean, it has so many things. Well,
So
Ross,
it
oh
makes
yeah,
sense that if I sort of always lock myself in my cave, then I'm not fulfilling the fullest of my potential. I need to put myself out there for others to observe me in
yeah.
order to role model something, right? So this makes sense.
Yeah, so
What
that, and then Ra always makes fun. Like there's so much contradiction in your whole design. So I immediately thought like, oh, it's interesting to be observed and to be in a cave, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like that is already like an interesting contradiction. The only thing about the cave is though, the cave is not about alone, because the cave is with a lot of people actually. So but it is still about having your space around you. Like for example, when you are a little baby and and you're sleeping in your own room and you have like a door there and a window there that is not the safe feeling for a baby who is a cave. The cave needs to have the feeling, okay, I know there's the entrance, that's the only entrance where people can come in and out. That is the feeling of the cave, right? Yeah, there's the door. Yeah,
I
it's
can
still,
see it. I can control it.
you can control it, so that's important, like that's what you like. But still it is, in that cave there can be a lot of people though. It's not that you don't like other people or be with other people.
Well, I have an exclusive cave environment. So this is more like, and I've been observing this in myself, like I like to be alone in my cave. And
Uh-huh.
I like to control who and when is allowed to come into my cave.
Yeah.
So I like to be alone in my cave.
Interesting. Yeah. So, but it says what it says about is that the exclusive just means you let people come to your cave.
Yes.
And the other way around is that you go to the cave. So that is a difference. You can have to show you. So, for example, to understand for people, we're now talking about the environment. We're talking about the left, of the right arrow on the left side on the top. You can have left or right.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So you're left, so you're exclusive. So people need to come to your cave. But when you have the right arrow, I don't know the name of it. Exclusive
Blending,
and
right?
blending.
Blending.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you have the right, you go to the cave. So you go to the cave.
Uh-huh.
So it's not about your cave. And it's also with the marketplace, for
Cool.
example. If you are a marketplace, my father, for example, he was a car dealer. He sold, he was selling cars, and he had
Mhm.
his own marketplace on his in his own place. People come to him. So it was his marketplace, and that was also with him because he was left marketplace. But when you're right marketplace, you go to the market. So you want to be on the market, but you go to it. So that is already like the difference in the left and right arrow of the environment, which already may be a nice detail for people who wants to understand it. But still, the cave people, it's not that you don't like it. The cave is still about a lot of people though. But that's like how Ra was explaining. The cave is more people, marketplace less people. Then you have the kitchen, lesser people. Then you have, I think Julian, you are valleys, right?
Yeah, white
Yeah, so
valleys.
valleys, air. It's all about air from the 4, 5, 6 valleys, mountain shores. It's all about air and like space and breathing and so they need to have space. Valleys need to have space. Mountains have even more space, and shores need to see the distance and see the other side of the world, right?
Mhm.
So that is the way it goes. And you can also say it with the red arrow on the top with the environment, or with the digestion, with the food. It's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You start with what we have, Marta, alternating. It's like the ultimate first, when we were hunting in the forest, and then we had this,
Yeah.
smells in the air.
Primordial or whatever you call that.
Yes, and then you go up into all the things you can have. And then what Julian was saying with the hot and cold, so people need to eat above their body temperature or under their body temperature. Then you get, with the
Oh, the
sound,
light sensitive.
yes,
This
people need to eat in
that,
sound, have music on when they eat,
yeah.
or like totally silenced.
Hmm.
Ra was always making fun of him with his son because he needed to eat in silence, Ra, but his son needed to be eating in a lot of sound.
Uh-oh.
So Ra was always sitting eating with a headphone on with the family, couldn't hear anything, and his son was like making sounds, and he was like, so it was funny. It's always funny. And he was also a valley, so he was like saying, I like to be sitting with my headphones, silent headphone, on my porch seeing passing all these people eating, that was, and then oh, it was sure, was Raj sure? Oh,
No, sure. Yeah, Ra was
sure.
shore.
But I think he was talking about sure, but he was like explaining this, this picture, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense, right?
So cool. So cool.
So you can
Well,
see how much we can learn about variables. It's like,
yeah. Oh my God. We could do another 4 episodes on this
let's
alone.
do it.
Let's do it. But I think it's time to wrap up for us because
A lot of
we also
material.
running out of time right now, and it was a wonderful, fruitful conversation. I really loved it. Thank you so much, guys. I'm up for more of it, and I hope this was useful for whoever of you is listening to this. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for being on the journey with us, and we hope for you to come back. with us as well. If you feel called to reach out to either one of us or to all of us, we have our email, we have our personal emails as well as the podcast email that you can reach out to us. We also encourage you to communicate with us, to ask us questions, to get into conversation with us down in the comments to this video. And if you feel called to reach out to one of us, we will leave for you also in the description for this video the way to reach either one of us. So thank you once again, and we hope to see you back here in 1 week or whenever you decide to watch this video. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ta-ta.